This is the third one of a series of events a bit like this that we've run, and they're all trying to look at trying to take a big look at a big global issue somewhere around sustainability, and they're coming out of the idea that around sustainability there are some very big global challenges. They require big picture thinking, and they require us to really join up all the disciplines as much as we can and think in new ways about things. So the first one of these was about the big picture on climate change, and then we followed that up with one that was about how can we all wake up to sustainability issues, and then we're trying to link in with other things that are going on around the university, because there seems to be quite a lot of kind of growing momentum for the idea that we do need big thinking around sustainability issues, and we do need to join up the disciplines, we do need to think in new ways, and we do need to involve not just the university but outside the university as well. And it was a really nice Sustainability Plus seminar the other day that looked at denial and the psychology of denial. So for that reason we've got John Foster along here to talk about that a bit in a minute, and I'm only going to talk for a very short time. And Becky Willis, really pleased to have Becky Willis, who's going to be talking in a moment. So she was on the Vice Chair of the Sustainable Development Commission, former Director of the Green Alliance. She's trained over 50 MPs from all different parties, all the main parties at least in climate change. John Foster wrote the Sustainability Mirage and is from the Department of Politics, Philosophy and Religion. Just before I just sort of tee up the subject of the day, just with a few words, just a few comments about this. The idea is that we can hold a few other events over the next months on similar sort of lines to these. So, and we're sort of tweaking the format a bit. So there is a little cardboard box here, and it just says on the top, thoughts about next events. So any thoughts that anybody's got about what would be good good topics to bring up, what would be good speakers, any comments about the format, things that do and don't work best, what day of the week, how long should it be, how long should people talk for, whatever, timings, whatever. Just if you do have any thoughts, put them in here. And the other thing is that some people have said, well, there should be some kind of output from this, and we kind of want to be very light touch about this. But what we suggested was that there are some post-its floating. We'll make sure they float around, so that if at any time during the talks or the Q&A or having a drink afterwards or whatever, you have any kind of single quick thought that has struck you that you want to just do something with, then stick it on the wall, and we'll collect them all, and we'll get them somehow. There will be some output that you can see from it. And somewhere along the line, we thought we might have some web presence for this kind of event and others like it as well. So I'm going to move swiftly on because I want to leave as much time as possible for people other than me to talk. So, but just a very quick reminder. So this is about how can we bridge the gap between the evidence and the action. So I just wanted a really quick recap of how big that gap is. So this is just some of it. This is just the patch that I work in. So this is a carbon emissions curve that's going exponentially up, and that's pretty well definite. That's pretty very clear evidence, and it's not showing any sign whatsoever of responding to the fact that mankind has found out about climate change. This is how much carbon we've burned, emissions so far. Mankind's emissions so far, and this is how much we've got left to burn if we want a 75% chance of staying within a 2 degree temperature rise. And there's good science saying that 2 degrees itself is pretty risky, and we'll burn that in about 20 years on today's current trajectory, something like that. So that's all very clear evidence. Some uncertainty around the risk factors, but there's good evidence that that's the best picture we can get. So that's something we've got to do, something that looks a bit like that. And so some people say, well, will green energy get us there? Will a green energy revolution get us there? So I just wanted to put this slide up. So this just shows the different emission energy from different fossil fuels since 1850. So this green one here is the coal, and it's been rising more or less exponentially. And this purple one here is the oil. Started off a bit later, but it's been going more or less exponentially. Had a bit of a dip there, somewhere around the 80s. But interestingly, in the big picture on this is that its exponential rise has more or less been kind of separate from coal's exponential rise. It didn't really do much to the coal trajectory, maybe dented it a bit. And then this one down here is gas, coming on later still, and again, there it is on a nice exponential trajectory. This one's nuclear, tailing off a bit. Who knows what the future of that's going to be. And this little one down here that people say, well, it's going to be the renewables revolution that does it for us. What we're saying is that although these curves here are much, much bigger and they've all been going on independently, suddenly, right now, this little one down here, which is the world's renewables, is going to go right up to the sky to the point that it's going to be so dramatic that it's going to pin these ones right down onto the ground. And it's all going to happen by the time we get to about here. So that's what we're asking for, if you think that's the solution. What about energy efficiency? Is that going to get us there? Well, the evidence is that innovation and efficiency per se does not say it hasn't got an important role, but we've had a lot of innovation and efficiency improvements since 1850. So far they've been part of the growth dynamic, not part of a reduction in total impact. So not to say they don't have a role, but the default is that it won't sort us. It's not that the default is that will sort us out. And lastly, will we run out of fuel in time? And this is really uncontroversial. That's how much we've got left to burn if you count just the probable reserves. But if you count the total amount, just the total amount we know about, this is how much there is, and this is how much we can burn for a 75% chance of that 2 degrees. So that's the extent of the evidence. And I think I don't need to point you out. So the gap is that none of that thinking is anywhere near the political debate. So that was kind of the first half of what my book was about. But none of this really is the front line of the sustainability debate or the climate change debate. All of that is just kind of, we know, we've got that evidence. The really, really interesting questions are things like, well, why aren't we acting on all this? That's the bit that nobody's really got a handle on. Or even more, well, how could we change that? And that leads us on into other questions like, how can we get the evidence actually to find its way into UK politics? Maybe Russell Brand's the most optimistic thing in UK politics at the moment. I don't know, but how could it be that would be? So we're going to hear from Becky in a minute, who's got at least some experience of trying at that. And here's a question, so what would this university look like, actually? What would it be like working here if this university really acted on the evidence that I've just presented, and a whole lot of other sustainability evidence as well? And then another sort of question is, well, what could a person do to help an institution, any institution, this one, UK government, anything, to bridge that gap that we've been talking about? So that's easy enough for me. And on to